long range. Me and the team on the same thing. Stayed down, never switched up. Only thing changed was the game. I'm in the zone now. Nothing can change what we on now. When I pull up, know it's going down. Foot on the gas, ain't no slowing down. Aiming for greatness, no settling. Kick down the doors, they won't let me in. Taking no L's, yeah, I gotta win. Watch me kick down the doors, they won't let me in. Who running the game now? Foot on the gas, can slow down. No, my team, we holding it down. We know we running it now. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Watch the game change, yeah. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. Watch the game change. I do not gamble, but bet on me. Tell them that's like, yeah, c'est la vie. I'm taking a shot for my enemies. I can't waste no more time on my energy. I know they know I got it on lock. Go against me, that's a long shot. Cause I'm counting wins all around the clock. Never doubt me, boy, I don't stop. Who do you feel when they make you the monster? I am not scared of none of you imposters. Taking the lead now while they watching. Think you should leave now while the option. Taking no L's, yeah, I gotta win. Watch me kick down the doors, they won't let me in. I'm running the game now. Foot on the gas, can slow down, no.
Welcome to another edition of the It's Cavalier Podcast. It's your boy Mac, and we have won our third straight game right out of the gate. That is right. You heard that correctly. The Cleveland Cavaliers are off to a stellar start. They improved to 3-0 for the first time since the 2020-2021 season, when they also began the season at a pretty torrid start. Much different circumstances back then during the rebuild. This just feels completely different, and I can't help shake the feeling that we're not even really scratching the surface of what this team could potentially become. Alas, you're going to get your people, your folks, talking about how the Cavaliers begun the season against three very, very lackluster opponents in the Toronto Raptors, the Detroit Pistons, and the Washington Wizards. Now, to that, I simply say you can only play the teams on your schedule. And so far, so good. Kenny Atkinson looks completely in control of this Cavaliers team as they hung 135 points on the Wizards on the road. Didn't require overtime to do so. And if you guys may recall, against Toronto, they actually set a Cavs record for points in a road game that did not go to overtime with 136. And we're sitting here right now, again, with another 130 plus point game. And Kenny is only 3 games in. 130 plus in 2 out of the 3 games, crossing the 100 points barrier and 3 straight games, something the Cavaliers just really failed to do last season. Just crazy. What's more, the Cavaliers, are shooting 45 of 103 from 3-point range. That is 43.7%. Kenny Atkinson has definitely changed things here. There is definitely a stylistic difference on what we're watching with this very, very incredible Cavaliers team. And some of the pieces, people made such a big deal about Cleveland not making any major moves during the offseason. And, to a degree, you could understand that. You're watching and you're reacting to some of the roster acquisitions and additions of other teams, especially in the Eastern Conference. And you're thinking to yourself, how is Cleveland going to manage to keep pace? Well, Kobe Altman and company decided that they were going to double down on this core 4. They're going to double down on this roster, really. And they said, you know what? We just need a new voice. We just need a new voice to oversee everything. And so far, so good with Kenny Atkinson, who just seems to get just the right amount of production out of everybody, even in nights where everybody may not be necessarily at the top of their game. You're seeing everybody else step in and kind of pick them up. Now, one of the darlings of these last 2 prior to tonight had been Dean Wade. Tonight, the stat sheet will show that Dean was a plus 15 on the night, but Dean failed to drop a triple tonight. He only made 1 field goal and would finish tonight with just 2 points, 5 rebounds, an assist, and a steal. But I don't think anybody would necessarily tell you that Dean had a bad game. But from a statistical standpoint, everybody else kind of stepped up and chipped in where they needed to. A couple of performances in particular that we're going to begin discussing here shortly. But somebody I was really, really impressed with tonight was Jarrett Allen, who went perfect from the field tonight, a perfect 10 of 10 in 25 minutes of action. He would finish the night with 23 points, 5 rebounds, assist, a steal, and 2 blocks. This is a man who will never complain about touches, somebody who is always going to play his part and really won't give you any back talk about it. And that we love about Jarrett Allen. And he's going to have his nights where he looks like the second best player in the team to Donovan Mitchell, who also had a pretty big night tonight. But one thing that I love is that anybody on this team can step up. Dr. Claw 77 says Kenny really has shown the two bigs can work, and it's perfectly fine to stagger them the way he has been. Yeah, and we know that staggering has been a constant point of emphasis throughout the last couple of seasons that these guys have been paired together, but the way in which Kenny Atkinson has chosen to do so has been very, very effective. We're getting lineups out here that we may not have seen in the past under JB Bickerstaff. Claw also says, I have to give Niang some credit for calming down his game in these lineups. Levert too, some huge shots tonight. Yeah, I mean, I remain a pretty big fan of George Niang. I don't know about you guys, but I do believe that he is noticeably in better shape. I definitely think that helps. Now, Niang is never going to be the quickest guy out there. He's never going to be the fastest or, the strongest. But what he can do is provide you floor spacing, and that threat of the 3 ball out of the front court makes some of these lineups work, right? If Jarrett Allen goes to the bench and you're sliding Evan Mobley over to the 5, playing Niang at the 4 where he can space the floor, it's been working. It's been working. And tonight, Niang is somebody who did contribute, very, very little from a statistical standpoint. He went just 1 of 7 from the field, 1 of 6 from 3-point distance, but he did grab 6 rebounds and finished the night at +7. I'll take it against the Washington Wizards team. Not everybody really had a great night tonight from a shooting perspective, but Niang's minutes, as long as he is able to provide impact in other areas, especially with Max Strus out and Dean starting, you're kind of reliant on George to provide you backup 4 minutes. So you need every bit of production that you can get out of him. Hopefully he'll pick that shot up. That said, I was really, really impressed with what we saw from Jarrett Allen tonight. The constant pick and roll chemistry that he's shown with Ty Jerome, Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, and others. It's something that it's got me feeling really, really hype about the apex of what the core 4 can become. Because while we've seen these guys individually step up in different areas of their game, and we haven't necessarily seen them coalesce yet under Kenny Atkinson. I don't think we've necessarily seen that just yet. A lot of guys just, and kind of getting their own, but I think it will come together at a certain point. And I think Kenny Atkinson has deserves a lot of praise for that. Right. So I'm happy as hell. I'm not going to keep harping on it, but man, it's been a damn fine start to the season. Tom K says Ty Jerome legit the best off-season addition. Yeah, and the great part about it is that we didn't have to pay anything this offseason, right? He was an addition last year, and he got robbed of all but 2 games of Ty Jerome. And he comes in, he is the MVP of September, apparently. And, he's carried that right on into the regular season. And we have seen Ty contribute averages of 13.7 points, 4.3 assists, and 2 rebounds through 3 games while completing, get this, 73.7% of his field goals, including 75% of his 3-point attempts. This dude has been off to a torrid start. He's only playing about 16.7 minutes per game. Then, I mean, just the command of the offense that he is showing out there, the ability to function as a high-level initiator out of the pick and roll, finding Jarrett Allen, finding Evan Mobley, down low or at the rim on lob attempts. It's been something that I don't think anybody quite expected, because the book on Ty Jerome prior to being acquired is that this guy has shown a pretty substantial 3-point shot, because with Golden State, I mean, he shot a career best around 39% in his last mostly healthy season with them. And so when he arrived in Cleveland last year, I was thinking, this is another guy out there that can possibly become a sharpshooter for this team. But little did I know that he would actually be able to affect it this way as an initiator. And they just haven't necessarily called upon him to be a knockdown 3-point shooter. And he can do that. We've seen that. He did hit a triple tonight, but this has been a fantastic development. It has all but rendered Craig Porter Jr. glued to the bench. It has also rendered the staggering of Donovan and Darius not such a necessity, right? Because you can play all of these guys at various moments, and you don't have to necessarily say, Darius and Donovan don't fit together so well, so we got to figure this shit out. No, Ty can be that bridge, and it's something very effective to the very, very relative to the effect that Ricky Rubio had on the Cavaliers, prior to his injury a couple of years back. It's been a fun development to watch. And as long as Ty can stay healthy, I'm loving the idea of keeping him in the rotation once Max Strus comes back, because once that happens, a lot of tough conversations might need to be had in regards to who's the first guy out of the rotation. I think I told you guys last night, yeah, I truly believe this could go one of two ways. Once Max comes back, if they decide that they're going to start Max once more, that will probably render Niang out of the rotation. If they decide that Dean is going to continue to start and have Max come off the bench, I think that you're going to elect to have Niang stay in the rotation just because he can provide backup power forward minutes, and it's probably going to come down to Isaac Okoro and or Sam Merrill as first man out, depending upon how deep Kitty goes into rotation. If it's 10, that's definitely the route that I think it'll take. If it's 11, you don't have to worry about it as much. You can kind of plug and play as needed. But man, just Ty has just been such a revelation for this team. And again, you have to take it with the grain of salt. This is only a 3-game sample size, but much of what we have seen, I have to believe, is something that can be replicated night in and night out. And I know I sound like a broken record over these last couple of live pods, but I truly believe that to be the case. The Cavaliers, I mean, they got kind of I want to say a light start to the season, but it's kind of true, right? Starting off against Toronto, Detroit, and Washington is definitely nice, considering that we will now have to face a pretty solid gauntlet of teams here in the Knicks, who have proven to be kind of a thorn in Cleveland's side over the past couple of seasons. You got a rather cool matchup with the Los Angeles Lakers, where LeBron and Bronny are likely to suit up together, which will probably write a whole bunch of headlines about. You got Orlando, you got Milwaukee in a back-to-back, New Orleans and Golden State, all coming before the middle of November. So I'm glad that we got this kind of tune-up series of games. And I'm sorry if there are any fans of opposing teams. If you're a Washington Wizards fan and you're watching tonight, I apologize. Not trying to say that I'm not trying to slight your team, but I think we all get the gist here. Cleveland was considered to be the team to beat in all of these matchups. Nobody was really truly banking on Detroit, Toronto, or Washington to be the winners, unless you're fans of those respective teams. Cleveland was expected to win all of these games, is what I'm trying to say. So I'm glad that we kind of got this series of games to get the feet wet, get some of the rotations ready, and how they're going to operate the offense. And I think that once we do roll into this game against New York, that it's very, very possible that we could begin this season 4-0. And the Lakers, I don't know, assuming that LeBron and AD suit up in that one, it's going to be probably a big time matchup. So I don't know. That could go either way. This Knicks game could too, but it makes me feel good to know that we have started to see some of the seeds of what have been laid, throughout the off season now. And it's been awesome. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but I'm looking at Cavs notes here, and they said that Jarrett Allen just this is the third time in his career that he has gone perfect from the field. He did that tonight. He did it against Memphis back in 2021, where he went 11-11 from the field, and he also did so apparently against OKC back on February of 2021, where he also went 11 of 11, which is awesome. This season, Allen is shooting a combined 20 of 24. That is 83% from the field through 3 games. That is insane efficiency, guys. Insane efficiency. And again, this is a dude who's never going to complain about the touches that he has given. If it's a game where he's taken 6-7 field goal attempts, you will never hear Jarrett Allen complain. If it's a game where he's taken 10, 11, 12, he is never going to complain. You love that about Jarrett Allen. And I don't know if you guys watched my recent expectations video on the bigs on the roster, consisting of Jarrett, Evan, JT Thor, and Tristan Thompson. But one of the things that I pointed out was that Jarrett Allen entered the season as the NBA's third active leader, third on the active leaders for field goal percentage behind, I believe, Rudy Gobert. And who was the other? Rudy Gobert and it escapes me. God damn it. This is gonna fuck with me all night now, but I gotta definitely check that out. Dude has been phenomenal in terms of efficiency. And let me see if I can find that, because that's just really gonna bother me. It really, really is. Let's see. I knew I wasn't tripping. Rudy Gobert and DeAndre Jordan. And Jarrett Allen is third. So I think that he has a really good chance to end his career in the top 5. I don't know how it's going to shake out, in seasons after this. But to start the season that way, with this level of high efficiency going 20 to 24, that's pretty damn awesome. Jim Varney says Cavs are number 1 on NBA app. Pistons put up a good fight. Indeed, I think JB is going to have these guys finish in the top half defensively. I don't know what their offense is going to look like, being that he employs such a heliocentric offense around, centered around the primary ball handler and Kate Cunningham. But they do have some nice pieces there. And Jaden Ivey, I think, as much as people get pissed off at Tobias Harris, he will have his games, at least during the regular season, where he goes off. You got Osor, you got you got Beef Stew, Jalen Duren, a couple of guys like that over there. Simon Fontecchio, they got some pieces over there, so I think they're going to be pretty good. Real Talk Tone says Jarrett Allen is still our second best player. To be honest with you, I think you can definitely make an argument for 2 players on the roster being the second best player. I think Donovan is still definitively number 1, but I still think there's a legitimate case to be made that Darius Garland should be considered the second best player on the team. And Darius is another player who had a phenomenal night tonight. He's kind of started the season off kind of shaky, but he did round it out tonight by going 23 points, 5 assists, and an efficient 9 of 11 from the field himself on 4 of 5 from 3-point distance. Did turn the ball over 4 times, but I won't hold it against him considering that we won. But I definitely think that you can make an argument for either one of those guys on any given night. Jarrett, for what it's worth, though, the one leg up that you could potentially give him is his work on the defensive end and how big of an impact he can be as both a rim protector and defensively out on the perimeter, being one of the switchable bigs. Real Talk says Ja is 2-way and extremely more consistent. Only reason I'll put him above DG. I hear you, and I'm if you have Jarrett Allen above Darius Garland, I won't argue you to death on that, simply because Jarrett Allen has kind of earned the opinion that, that type of opinion and that high praise from fans. So that is completely understandable if you have Jarrett Allen as the Cavaliers' second best player, as many other people do. And that just goes to show how good this core 4 can truly be with Donovan, Jarrett, Darius, and Evan Mobley, who's coming into his own. And speaking of Evan Mobley, not necessarily the most efficient night. He did have a double-double tonight, 13 points, 13 rebounds, did dish out 4 assists and blocked 2 shots, but he was just 4 of 13 from the field, including 0 of 2 from the three-point line. What I did like about Evan tonight was that he did draw considerable contact. He did go 5 of 7 from the charity stripe, and anytime he can get his way to the line on and, having an inefficient night from the field, one of the ways that you can make up for that is by getting yourself to the line and knocking down your freebies. And so Evan was at least able to do that. And I don't really have too many gripes about it. I think to us, as we continue to say this, we can't overreact to every single performance that we see, especially 3 games into a season. But what we can do is take bits and pieces away from what we are seeing and just kind of store them in the memory bank to see how these stretches pan out, given a larger sample size. And so for Evan, the efficiency, I think it's going to be okay. I don't necessarily feel as if Evan is in any trouble in regards to, finishing inside or knocking down that triple, because I think it's going to be hit and miss with him. But I think the back-to-back definitely may have had something to do with it. I don't know. Tom K says, back-to-back seemed to sap Evans' lift just a bit. It very well could have. And I often try and stay away from using back-to-backs as an excuse in regards to performance. But the reality is that it can have adverse effects on a player's performance, given how much they may or may not play. And Evan, it should be noted, Evan did actually pace the way in minutes tonight for the Cavaliers, 32 minutes. Second closest out there was Donovan Mitchell with 29. So I think that plays a role. And with everything that you're requiring him to do from a utilization standpoint, trying to get him more touches, as he would finish second on the team tonight in field goal attempts to Donovan Mitchell, to Donovan Mitchell's 18. Keep in mind, again, Evan had 13. I think that it's fair to expect nice from Evan like this. Real Talk Tone says, excited to see how we look against New York. Even the next 5 games in general, we will be seeing playoff level competition. Exactly. For those people out there who keep shitting on the team saying, well, yeah, you're playing shitty teams, you should win. This will be their time to shine, right? Because if Cleveland, you better believe, because I'm talking shit right now, you better believe that if Cleveland walks into this New York game, wins, or, they beat LA and Milwaukee, if that starts to happen and they look like they have been looking, I'm gonna be really, really annoying. You might want to mute me on social if you have me added, because it's probably going to get over the top with the praise that I'll probably end up heaping on this team. But I do understand it's the beginning of the season. You will always have people out there that, have their complaints in regards to it. But it's just been a great start to this season. There were just so many different things over these last couple of games that have excited me. Sam Merrill. Let's talk Sam Merrill for a second. Sam started this season kind of rocky from the field, and he did kind of turn things around in the second, or should I say latter half of this game tonight, but it's not been a great start from a production standpoint for Sam Merrill. It's kind of led people to believe that he might be the first person to be benched once Max comes back. Through 3 games, Sam is averaging 6 points, 1.3 assists, and 1 rebound while shooting just 31.3% from the field, including 28.6% from 3-point distance, which to me, I won't say it's not alarming, considering that this is a guy who is a noted sharpshooter, but it is definitely something to keep an eye on, because I enter the season feeling as if Sam would probably be a perfect fit for what Kenny Atkinson wants to do. But he has now gone a collective 4 of 14 from 3-point range, and There are moments when I'm like, okay, this is the Sam Merrill that we know and love. This is a guy who loves to come off screens and knock down treys. He's constantly moving out there. The guy who can draw about a gazillion charges a season. We've seen it. There's been flashes, but he hasn't necessarily come out the gate strong. Again, just 28.6% from 3-point distance. And so I really would like to see him kind of turn up the heat. And hopefully he gets the opportunity to do that against New York and LA moving forward. But I won't put the panic meter up that high. I'll put it at about a 4 right now because I don't want him to be pulled from the rotation. But I do get shooters such as Sam Merrill are prime candidates to be hot and cold depending upon any given day. I think he will turn things around though. And then we look to Isaac Okoro, somebody who I still believe holds a lot of value from a defensive aspect for this team. He did grab 5 rebounds tonight, but he went just 0-4 from the field. And this is another guy who is probably still trying to figure out where he fits in this new look rotation, right? He has typically been the 9th player off the bench behind LeVert, Merrill, and LeVert, Merrill, and Niang. So I would have to believe that if Sam Merrill is shooting okay and Isaac Okoro is not being able to provide any point production at all, that his name might also be somebody who is his name may also be one of the names that's first mentioned when you're talking about who's in or out of the rotation, because we know that defense alone may not keep him in. Through these 3 games, he's averaging just 3.3 points, 3 boards, and 2 assists, and he's shooting 37.5% from the field, and he has yet to knock down a triple. He's only attempted 1, which is something that, frankly, I was hoping would not be the case to begin the season, because he is getting relatively decent minutes. Okoro is playing 18.7 minutes per game. He's not played any less than 18 in any of these 3 games, and he has only attempted 1 triple. And I get it. You want to take them within the flow of the game. You want to be able to rely upon Okoro to not constantly opt to drive the basketball whenever he receives it out in the corner. But there were instances even tonight where I did not like what I saw from him in that regard. There were moments where I legitimately felt like he could have attempted that shot, but opted to drive inside instead. And there was 1 turnover he had, I believe. I think it may have been in the second quarter when he did that, and he definitely passed up the shot in favor of driving the basketball, which is something that Isaac Okoro has done year in and year out since he's been here. I need him to have the confidence to take that shot. Maybe I'm crazy, but that's how I took it. MNNGDSS says, I saw Isaac pass up at least 2 open triples. Yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only person that has noticed that, and that's become a common occurrence for him over the past couple of years. But hopefully he gets that sorted out. Again, he's attempted just 1 through these 3 games, and he's getting enough minutes. So we'll see. We shall see. The one thing that I can't appreciate is the always steady and high-level point of attack defense. Real Talk says, Okoro comes in every second quarter and instantly shifts the defensive intensity. And we will always appreciate that from Isaac, because he can go out there and guard the opposing team's best perimeter player. We know that he can even, go up positions and guard 4s like we saw him do against Powell last year. But it's not – this is a much different Cavaliers team, and there are more mouths to feed. So we'll have to see how this plays out. We'll see. Real Talk Tone said, he also says he has played the full 4th quarters on the court with the reserves, which is why his minutes are 18-ish, but he isn't getting opportunities because it's garbage time. Yeah, I think that is a legitimate case, especially with at least 2 of these games being considered blowouts. But even when he is out there, he is being given looks. Make no mistake. There were at least 2, maybe even 3 opportunities that he had tonight where he opted to drive instead, when the defense, they still don't respect him, and rightfully so, honestly. when he could have pulled the trigger on the shot, which is the biggest area that I would like to see him improve in. Last season, from the regular season perspective, highest numbers of his career in that regard, but I got to see him up that volume. And I get that in this new look offense, maybe Kenny is not going to be too pissed off at him if you're getting that production elsewhere. As I let off saying, the Cavaliers, despite Isaac not really being a factor in that regard, they're still shooting 43.7% from 3-point distance. They're a combined 45 of 103 without Okoro factoring in at all, without Sam Merrill being a factor basically at all. So that's just crazy to me. But yeah, we got to see it. Jim Varney, haha, says Okoro's confidence has been eroding more every game. I don't know. As Real Talk pointed out, he's playing mostly in garbage minutes. Well, I won't say he's playing mostly in garbage minutes, but the bulk of his like long stints have come during the garbage periods of time. So we'll see, but I think confidence definitely could be something that is indicative of him not pulling the trigger on the shots. And that actually, he may not have been the only player to be afflicted by that tonight too. As Dean Wade, there was at least 1 to 2 shots that Dean Wade probably could have pulled the trigger on tonight, where old ugly habits reared their ugly head, and he didn't. He moved the ball. So we need to see both of these guys not hesitate and pull the trigger, as we know that players like George Niang and Sam Merrill, those guys, you will never have to worry about their confidence. No matter if they go 0 of 7, 0 of 6 from the field, or they go 4 of 5, 4 of 6. So we need Isaac and Dean to operate a little bit more like that at times. You don't want to overdo it, but we want to see the volume. Pisto says Mormon Missile knocking him down with hurt wrist. He will stay in the top of the rotation at least until Max is back. Yes, the threat of the 3-ball is a big deal for this team, especially for a front court that can be deprived of it at times, especially if Niang is not knocking them down, especially if Dean is not knocking them down. Sam still gives the Cavaliers a big time threat and a lot of gravity, as teams know that they generally have to chase him around screens, be aware of his presence at all times, and just follow Sam, right? Whether he's knocking them down or not. The pure threat of that 3-ball remains a highly effective weapon. Nate says, yes, I think Kenny's offense is a big adjustment to the type of basketball these guys have been playing their whole lives. Possibly. Let alone the last couple of seasons under JB Bickerstaff. This is completely different. The ball movement, the sets that are being run, the offense that's being initiated much, much quicker in the shot clock, probably something that they're not quite used to. DSS, as I saw in an interview where he said he didn't play 5-on-5 all summer because of the contract situation, so he's probably still trying to get used to things. Yes, and so that was when they're at training camp, if I am not mistaken. He was asked that, and he elaborated on that, basically not wanting to get himself injured prior to signing that contract, which is very, very understandable, because anything can happen, and you don't want to miss your payday because you're playing basketball in a meaningless situation. And he was still trying to play his way into shape. I think that was the wording that was stated during that interview. But to me, honestly, the things that I wanted to see from him, I don't think it's for lack of being in basketball shape. I think it's clearly just not being confident enough to pull that trigger, which we need him to do, but time will tell. Real Talk says, looks like Kenny plays Okoro first 6 minutes of the second quarter and the first 6 minutes of the fourth quarter, but since we have been up, he has kept him in close games with the reserves. So here's the thing, right? I think we have to take these minutes, the minutes distribution in all of these games with a major grain of salt, because again, you got your starters playing mid-20s. The only player to play more than 30 minutes was Evan Mobley tonight. He played 32. He led the way. Donovan played 29. Jarrett only played 25, and a night where he was efficient as fuck. Darius only played 24, and then Dean Wade played 19. Wade is the only person in the starting five that does not surprise me in the very least, because even last year, there were a lot of games where Dean was not getting the full starters complement of minutes, even when Evan and Darius were out. And to me, that's both a good thing and a bad thing at times, because for Dean, I want to keep him healthy. I want to keep him upright. And one of the best ways that you can achieve that is simply by limiting his exposure to the court, right? Not overexerting him and, expending him. And, there are other moments where I'm just like, man, put Dean back out there, because we need what he brings to the table from a defensive standpoint and from a floor spacing standpoint. But yes, I say all that to say we have to kind of take the minutes distribution of these last couple of games, and when these guys are entering the rotation or specific lineups at various times, we have to take it with a grain of salt, because it's not likely to look like that in a competitive game. But definitely think that we're going, as we start to face off against some more of these competitive teams, your New Yorks, your LAs, your Milwaukees of the world. I definitely feel that the starters are probably going to start playing 30 plus minutes per game. And I know with Kenny wanting to play 10, possibly even 11 deep during the regular season at times, minutes distribution is already going to be kind of funky, because you're going to want to feed all of these guys from Levert and Merrill to Niang and Okoro to Ty Jerome. And that might be difficult to do if you're not willing to pull minutes from specific players. And Isaac Okoro, unfortunately, since he does still struggle, a very, very important thing for his position, he is one of the primary candidates to have those minutes stripped from him, which, as an Okoro fan, I hate, but as a Cavaliers fan, I get it. So we'll see. Nate asks, is there a path to JA becoming the sixth man? I absolutely don't think the Cavaliers would ever consider that. I think they would trade Jarrett Allen before they even remotely consider making him the sixth man, because of how effective him and Mobley are from a defensive standpoint. So I frankly I wouldn't like that at all. I would rather them move Jarrett and see what kind of value you can get from him, rather than having him come off the bench. Because I guess my question at that point would be, I'm assuming that you're starting Evan Mobley at the 5, but who's your 4? Are you slotting Dean Wade in at the 4 and starting Max Strus at the 3? What would you plan to do at that point? Because I think if you're going to move on from Jarrett in the starting lineup, you have to have somebody who is equally effective in the at the starting 4 position if you're sliding Evan over to that 5. So, yeah, I have to agree with Tone down here. He says Jarrett Allen should never be a sixth man. No, he is way too impactful to limit him in that fashion. You may get away from time to time with not playing him full starters, loads of minutes like tonight in a blowout, but I don't think he should ever truly be somebody that should be considered a sixth man or in a bench role. Jay Hong Donk says, as of now, what do you think they do when Max comes back? I believe right now that they probably give the job back to Max, but it's highly dependent upon how Dean finishes this, the stretch prior to him coming back. Tonight is not going to be something that he can point to, or anybody hoping that Dean will usurp Max in the starting lineup. It's not going to be a game you can point to and say, yeah, he should definitely be out there. But if Dean can string together many more performances like he had in the first 2 games, I think that you're probably looking at a battle. And if the Cavaliers feel like they're in a flow and they like the basketball that they've been playing and what Dean offers them from a defensive spacing and rebounding standpoint, I think that a certain conversation will probably be had. But even when Max comes back, I don't think Max would be losing it. He would be in fear of losing anything other than the starter's role, because I don't think they would play him any worse than the sixth man. But time will tell. I don't think he drops any further than being the sixth player out there in the rotation. I think he would immediately bump Levert down a rung on the ladder. But time will tell. It is completely, to me, dependent upon how Dean finishes out this stretch. Now, if you ask me about the rotation, as I mentioned earlier, I think if they decide that they're going to continue to start, Dean even when Max comes back, I think that they probably bump Okoro or Merrill out of the rotation. If they decide that Max is once again going to be the starter, I think that they bump Niang out of the rotation, because you still need somebody out there that can soak up backup power forward minutes. So completely dependent upon what Kenny values most, but time will tell in that regard. I'm hoping I'm hoping that whoever's out there, they give us whatever we need out of the three, because one of the biggest things that Max provides is the threat of the three ball, the volume shooting. And we know that, or at least I learned, because, in watching him with Miami in years past, I thought he was mostly just a movement shooter. But last season showed me a lot about what Max Strus is capable of. He is a quality playmaker. He is an underrated rebounder. And I do also believe that he gets far too much flack for the defense that he plays, because I do believe that he is an underrated defender. I think that he can hold his own. But the problem with Max is that you're playing him at the three typically, and he's forced to guard guys that are frankly bigger than him, right? So I'm just at a point right now with Max where I don't want him to lose his job simply because he's not available, but I'd have to acknowledge that that is a very real and distinct possibility if Dean Wade plays high level basketball and the Cavaliers like what they're getting on both ends of the floor. Because while Max provides you a good amount of volume shooting out there, Dean's ability to defend defend on the wing, and the length and size that he has, and the shooting ability that he also exhibits, I think that it would be very, very hard for the Cavaliers if they're winning a ton of games prior to Max coming back. I think it might be hard to pull him. I just that's frankly where I'm at with it. But this is only a 3-game sample size, and we'll have to take it game by game. But yeah, that's where I'm at on the starting three situation, like right now. Nate says, I seen Niang lock up Zion before. His obesity comes in handy at times. Honestly, Nate, I think this is the healthiest that Niang has been since he was with Philly. I honestly believe that he is in the best shape that he's been in since he came to Cleveland. Like this, he looks completely different than the way he did last year. He's still slow-footed. He's not the quickest athlete out there. He's never gonna be the most athletic player on the court. That will never be the case for George. But I do believe that he is noticeably in better shape this year. And if he's knocking down shots, that's great. If he's not, the threat of the three ball is still very important, at least right now, without having Max out there and pressing Dean into the starting lineup. But I'm still a big fan of Niang, so I'm gonna chill on the Niang jokes. But it's pretty funny. Man, this stretch of basketball has just allowed all of us to not really have to worry about too much of anything right now. And I'm just glad that we're starting this season out without having to have some serious conversations, because in last couple of seasons, Cavaliers just, if they've had failure to launches, they've had games where they probably should have won. And I think the one that comes to mind for me was the Toronto matchup. I think it was 2022-23. Didn't the Cavaliers lose their first game that season? I think that was the game that Darius got his eyes clawed out by Gary Trent Jr., if I'm not mistaken. Didn't they lose that game? I don't know. Maybe my memory is failing me here. No, they did. They lost because DG was only able to play 13 minutes, and he would go on to miss the next 5 games. But this just seems, at least during the Donovan Mitchell era, it seems to be the best possible start that we could have ever exhibited. Because if you recall, they began last season 1-3. They beat Brooklyn, but they went on to lose against OKC, Indiana, and New York. This year they've gone 3-0. But again, the level of competition, it is important. It is important to consider when you're talking about Toronto, who is in a rebuild. You got Detroit, who I think is going to start taking the first steps out of it with JB taking over there, and then Washington, who's they're just so bad. But yes, just a great start. The real competition is about to begin, though, with New York on the roster, and that's probably the best place to leave it at. Is I don't want to sound like a broken record here. As I always tell you guys, if you'd like to reach out to me, I can. It's Cavalier_pod on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and more. If you want to be added to the It's Cavalier Discord chat, you know what to do. Leave a rating, leave a review, send a screenshot, send a review to It's Cavalier53@gmail.com. If you are watching over on YouTube, please do me a favor, hit that like button. If this is your first time viewing the show, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on Cavs coverage throughout this entire season. And if you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify via audio stream, leave a rating, leave a review. I feel like not enough people are doing that. Whew. Alrighty. Y'all have a good night. Go Cavs.